My name is Melanie. Welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be painting an owl face superimposed over a night scene based on a painting I had done here a couple of years back. And today I'm just using a couple of flat brushes and some paint I had left over from another project. So I just have white, black, and the three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. So I'm going to start by taking some yellow and just blocking in where I want to place the owl face. So it's basically an oval. I want it to take up a good portion of the face, good portion of the canvas here. And it's going to fade out into the background. It's going to be kind of a surrealist sort of a painting. It's going to be a landscape as well as an owl painting. So that's the shape of the head. I'm just going to do a diamond shape for the beak and a couple of big eyes here just to place that, and I'm going to tidy it up, add some color and feathers as I go. So I'm going to take a bigger brush now and I'm just going to do the whole background. So unlike this one, which was kind of an abstract desert scene, I'm going to do a night scene and kind of a northern looking landscape with some trees and some mountains. So a little bit of white, a little bit of blue. The blue is quite vibrant, so I'm going to tone that down with some black. A little bit of white here and there as I go. So I'm just using a nice big brush, just letting the texture show to make some interesting marks with the brush. Now to help the paint spread a little bit, I'm going to actually use some water. So I'm going to spray that a bit. Oh, it's picking up some of the yellow too, which is kind of making some interesting color here. I'm going to kind of go right over my sketch here, but I'm painting thin enough I can still tell where my owl is. So a bit of a spray here. Now I'm doing a gradation from dark at the top and lighter as I go down towards where I'm going to put the horizon line, because we often see that in the sky, don't we? The sky is a darker blue or a darker black in the nighttime as it's further over our heads, and along the horizon often we see it a little more hazy, a little more bright there. So a bit more white. Now I've almost completely covered my sketch, but it's kind of printed in my mind. I know where I want to put it. So here's an interesting thing. When I spray the background and then just run my brush lightly over top of it, you might find that it picks up some of the paint and leaves kind of a speckled marking in the sky, which kind of starts to look like stars or a little bit of interesting texture in the background. I don't know if you can see it there, but I'll have to zoom in later and show you what I mean. So you don't want to struggle with making a perfectly smooth sky. Let it show some texture and interest back there. So that's what I mean. You can use things like your spray bottle if you have one, or dip your brush in water and create some interesting even drip marks, that kind of thing. All right, so now I want to put in maybe some hills and trees. So I'm going to take some blue, a little bit of red now to give it kind of a rich purplish. Just some hills. Just letting your brush sort of glide along and just have fun playing with this. Now I work pretty quickly, and by doing that I'm not overthinking it and overanalyzing it. I want just a nicely textured, abstract sort of a background here. It starts to look like water. Maybe I'll make that a lake or something. I'm using my spray bottle to add some water and help that paint spread and flow and the colors to blend. Okay, so I've left some white of the canvas showing here, but that's okay, because now I'm going to add some trees. So when I do pine trees, an easy and fun way to do that is starting with the trunk and then just having your brush sort of dance side to side off of that vertical line for the trunk. And just like a Christmas tree, near we're at the top, and then widen it out as you go down to the bottom like that. Now adding a few more. I'm mixing blue and black. Not really mixing, but what I'm doing here, I'll show you what I've got. I've got this messy palette of some leftover paint from another big project I was doing. So I'm just kind of double dipping the brush. So a little bit of black, a little bit of blue. And then those colors mix together right on the canvas. So here we go with some more trees. Now I want to be aware of where my owl is going to be. That's why I did my sketch first, even though I've kind of covered it over. I'm keeping in mind where the owl is going to be. So I don't make my trees too high up and interfere with that image that's going to be there. So maybe some, sometimes trees in the forest lean to the side. You can go kind of crazy with this and just make some interesting sort of marks that you might see in a forest, like sideways trees, branches going this way and that. So the wind may be blowing them, kind of curves and okay, so the main focus of this was to be the owl's face, so let's go back to that. Now, looking back on my original painting here, look at where the dark markings are around the eyes. So I'm just going to kind of go over that again, just with the corner of my brush. I'm still sticking with my big brush for now. Around like that. Around like so. The pupil is dark. But I can add a little gleam in the eye to that later on. Okay, so around the beak. Like so. And maybe a little bit of partial outline, like so the outline comes and goes. And I'm going to do kind of a feathering sort of effect, but faded out. Alright, so I'm going to switch brushes now because I want to do whites for the highlights on the owl. So this brush still had yellow on it, but that's okay because I want some nice golden warm highlights on this little guy. So I'm going to leave the yellow on the brush and just dip my brush in the white. And I'm going to do the highlights. So around the eyes, there's kind of white feathers all the way around. I've got a big blob here. I want to take that off. A white highlight on the top of the beak. Some white feathering underneath too. So if you accidentally pick up some black or some other color you didn't mean to, you can just blend that in and make that part of the shading and texture here. Alright, so around the top too, we want to add some nice highlights and nice texture. So with eyes, you got to watch the angles. If you have a slightly downward angle to the eye, it can make your character look a little bit angry or a little bit worried. So if your owl looks a little bit off, just maybe tweak that black eyeliner around the eye and give them a slightly different expression, and that might improve the whole look and feel of your painting. Or make sure your eyes are not one bigger than the other or one placed higher than the other, because that will look really awkward and uncomfortable to look at. Okay, so all around the beak and the eyes there's feathers, and the feathers grow up and outwards. Everything kind of grows outwards from the eyes and beak. So just keep that in mind as you go around and fill in that texture, to have your brush travel in the direction that the feathers are growing, and also the length of the feathers too. These are short little feathers, so short little brush strokes. If we're doing long hair or something, then you'd want a long flowing stroke of the brush, but because they're just little short feathers, just little dabby strokes like that. And so just less and less as you approach the horizon line here. So everything so far still is kind of abstract and unclear, especially down here. I didn't really finish these trees very well, but I'm going to kind of work on the background and fine tune that, work kind of from the top down. So I'm just going to wipe the paint off my brush. I've only used these two brushes so far, the one large one to fill in the whole under layer here. And now this kind of medium-sized brush, it's a size 10 actually. It's quite a large flat brush actually for what I'm doing. I'm going to take the corner of it though, dip it in the white, and just do a few stars. There's lots of ways you can paint stars and have them look really neat and sparkly. Some people flick the paint on. Let's see if I can do that. And then you get really fine stars. So you have to have a fairly stiff brush to do that. Put your thumb on it like that and run your thumb along so it flicks the paint and shoots it into little fine stars like that. I'm just using the corner again here and just making a few bigger stars twinkling in the sky here. You could do some interesting sort of swirls and have some fun with some movement and interest in the sky. So we're not going for perfect realism, we're just going for a really neat, creative night sky with this kind of spooky owl overseeing the forest at night here in the sky. Kind of a ghost, sort of an owl image here. All right. Oh, this kind of looks like a tuft, like, you know, those great horned owls that have these tufts of feathers. Maybe I'll just continue that look and have it look like that type of an owl now. All right, so here we are, our owl's coming together. Here he's got a bit of a stern, serious look, and that's okay. It's quite old, look, his face is quite an egg shape. I was kind of going on this. I feel like some owls are a little more round and circular in their head shape. So I'll just extend the bottom there. Okay, so I need to finish my trees and landscape here, so I'm just gonna add a few more branches and trees. Now I'm going to give the trees a little bit of a glow and some highlights on them. Just to bring some warmth down here too, because there's lots of cool colors. I want to kind of give this painting a bit of a warmer feel, so it's a little more friendly looking. So I'm going to take some red and yellow and mix them together. Still using the same brush, but I'm going to just use the corner of it so I can get a fine line. And I'm just going to touch along the edges and tips of some of these trees with this orange color that I've made. And it kind of gives a warm glow to these. It's kind of, might make them look like fall trees, some of them. So maybe I'll go with that look. And the warmth and brightness of this color too kind of makes these trees come into the foreground and look like they're definitely in front of those very blue looking hills in the background. Okay, so that's the basics of that. You could take a fine brush and just tidy up and add a tighter detail to that to your own liking. But basically, here it is. This is my owl in the sky overseeing the forest. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck if you're trying this at home. Thanks for watching.